Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Community Connection. I am real excited today because of our guests, but I'm really especially excited because we have something in the studio that is not available in Lynchburg. We have Krispy Kreme donuts. But you know, you can't get those in Lynchburg. So thanks, Sue, for bringing those over from Roanoke. Can't wait to dig into those. All right. So we have a special guest host. Janice Snitson, how are you this morning?
I'm well this morning. Thank you, Mr.
Yeah.
Day. It's good to be here.
Filling in for Claudia, right?
Big shoes to fill.
I'm sure you can do it, though. Why don't you introduce us to today's guest?
Absolutely. I'm pleased to introduce Bambi Durham. She is the care coordinator for the care team at Patrick Henry Family Services, but far more than that. So she introduces everyone. She's the first person that they talk to when they are interested in any of our services. Bambi brings an incredible amount of experience, an incredible amount of compassion and sense of humor. So that's a wonderful combination. But she's been with us 10, almost 11 years. And she's been in the house parenting business for a very long time, for about 22 years, I think we decided. And so she served in a really critical role caring for a lot of kids from hard places in the group homes for quite a while, and has stepped into really supporting and teaching others to do the same. And now is just really our front door for all of our services. So I'm glad to have you, Bambi.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Good morning. Thank you.
Bambi, I would love for you to share with us your why. Why do you do this?
Easy to answer that question. My why is because I believe that all children should be introduced to Jesus Christ and to the love and acceptance and their value in Jesus Christ. So I've always loved kids, and I've always loved teaching kids about God and who they are and their Creator and their Savior. So that's why.
Now, how did you decide to become a house parent? That's usually not a career goal that you hear
Never heard
teenagers
of
say,
it.
I want to be a house parent, right?
Yeah.
First of all, you got to hear about it. So, and you guys got into it like real quick right after your marriage, you and Nick, right?
Yeah. So 22 years ago, I moved as an intern to work at a ranch in Idaho that had kids from 0 to 18. Much like Patrick Henry, they were placed by their parents, so the state wasn't involved in any way. And in my internship in my first year, I fell in love with the place. And so they said, as I approached the end, hey, you want to stay, and we'll add you to staff. So I've been caring for kids that are in that spot for a long time. But Nick and I got married at the end of October, and we were already working in the school and coaching sports and stuff when we got married because we had a school on the property. But we got married in October, and in January, we're going to start doing relief house parenting. And the night before Thanksgiving, we went to Walmart to buy a turkey so that we could have our first turkey together. And we had just got paid, so we had to wait till the night before Thanksgiving. And while we were standing in the produce section, I looked over and saw a little girl with her mother and her brother. And the little girl had been placed at the ranch the summer before, so I recognized her. And when she saw me, she waved, and I waved, and I went over and talked to them. And we found out that they were living in a shelter, and their taxi had just left, and they didn't have a ride back to the shelter. So we quick grabbed our groceries, and we gave them a ride back to the shelter. And they were kicked out that night because of being late for curfew. And the little girl whispered to Nick in the car when they were talking about them not having a place to go. She said, please don't let us go with her. We don't want to go back to that crack house. And we said, hey, we'll take them with us. And they were with us for 3 months. So those were our first two kids. Been married for a month, and we had a 3-year-old and an 8-year-old. So, yeah.
So you've done this in 3 states, Idaho, Tennessee, and Virginia.
Yeah.
Boys and girls. I know you guys have totaled up the number.
Yep.
How many have you guys parented?
107.
107 children.
Yes, we have a list.
Yeah.
Of at least first names. We couldn't remember a lot of last names, but we have all the first names.
Yeah. Many of them stay in touch with you?
A lot of them do.
Yeah.
Yeah. We have house grandchildren is what we call them. So Nick was was the best man, I think, in the wedding of one of our boys from Idaho. He was from Kansas, we were from Tennessee and Virginia, living in Idaho, and then we went back to his wedding, and Nick was in his wedding in Kansas. So we stay in touch with a lot of them.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah. And their parents and grandparents, too. So, yeah, Facebook is a beautiful thing.
So what she just said connected me to my recent visit at Homes of Hope in Bedford, which was formerly a girls' home and then a boys' home, and
Our
you guys,
last home.
and the last home that you guys did that, and now it's a home for moms and their babies, and had a wonderful lunch there with
Yeah.
two of the moms, and they're precious. I mean, just precious
They are.
babies. But similar story. I mean, here's these two moms that both came to us from another shelter that, and kind of strict rules, and you have to be gone all during the day, whether you have anywhere to go or not. And I was just impressed, first of all, as director of Homes of Hope, by just the quality of the space and the feeling of home there. But
Yeah.
what's happening in those young moms' lives?
Yeah, that's an exciting space. I think Bambi has worked in that space as well, and I think one of the things that we share is the love for the family. So Bambi and her husband have taken care of so many kids, and I think we probably all shared the heart of when we saw them there. We thought, man, if we could have caught their parents earlier, if we could have given them the support and equipped them and resources, then maybe their kid wouldn't have to be here. They could get these needs met from their parents more readily. And so that's a lot of what Homes of Hope is.
Yeah.
It's it might be in the womb that they come into our home, or when they're first born, or up to 5. So we're trying to support the moms, equip the parents, and give them the resources, the meaningful relationships, the healing that they often need, because we just carry our pain from generation to generation. So that's what we're doing there. These ladies are doing hard work, but it's benefiting their kids. You can see it. You can see it. So,
Well,
we love
one
it.
of the things that's neat about that is that we are able to take from the womb, right, even at birth. But in the old Patrick Henry Boys and Girls Home, we couldn't take children under 6.
6.
Right.
Yep.
So really catching them even earlier is key, right? But then really reaching the moms are important. So you've seen this transition. You worked in kind of the old group home model.
Yeah.
And now you're doing a different work here at Patrick Henry. What has that meant for you personally, professionally? I mean, you have mixed emotions about it. How do you view all of this?
So many things, all the feels. I started out as a house parent in the group home, and Patrick Henry was one structure, and it has changed and morphed into something different, but something that is still supportive of families with the purpose of protecting kids and keeping them safe, reunifying or unifying them with their family unit if possible. So I believe in kids and families, and it doesn't change how you're doing it. It's just that you're doing it. So
Yeah.
it's been a lot. It was sad to see my sad little group home close. And I drove through the property recently, and they still have my S on the front of the house because it was Stephen's Cottage, that piece of wood that I bought and we painted with the boys.
And it's still
It's
there.
still
Yeah,
there. So
yeah.
it's special.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure you've left more impressionable marks than just a letter on a door.
I hope so, more than just the S.
Right? You've left impressions on a lot of kids. Yeah.
And they left it on us, too.
I have a story to tell you, Mr. Day,
Okay.
When I first met Bambi and Nick, I didn't have a lot of interaction with them. I was in the counseling center, but we were at an awards banquet. But I don't know that this is the first time I met them, but it made a big impression because I came to this awards banquet and I thought, who are these people that have these like 6 or 7 boys lined up with white collared shirts, khaki pants, and matching bow ties? Because they were like from 6 to 17. Who can get a bunch of teenage boys to dress alike like that? And they weren't complaining. So Bambi has a gift for bringing connection and unity that way, and getting kids to do things that I would have never imagined. Do you remember?
I do.
Do you remember that?
I have that image in my mind.
Yeah,
Seeing it myself.
it's precious. And so Bambi is, I think she's born to parent and to help other people parent. She helps me parent all the time. I'll say, this doesn't make sense. I don't know what to do. And she'll just say the most helpful thing. So I think God's uniquely called her and uniquely equipped her to help so many other parents.
Yeah.
You know?
That's a good point. It's a profound thing to parent other people's children, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a completely different space when you step into someone else's child. And as a house parent, one of the things that you always keep in mind is this is not my child. This child was created by God. It's his child, and it was given to someone else. And so I always wanted to respect and love the guardian who placed them with us and show them support, and that I just want to stand in their gap while they take their break, or they get the therapy that they need, or they work on whatever it is as they need to do on their side as the parent, and I'll work on the child's side.
Yeah.
That was all I was called to do, was that, with the most respect for who the guardian was. And I never, not once in 107 kids, did we have the thought of, oh, we might want to keep this one until.
And we're going to talk about that in a little bit. You got a question? Yes.
Well, I was thinking, even though we don't have the group homes anymore, and we help families, similar families, like a lot of the folks that placed kids were kinship families. They're the aunt and the grandmother who is taking care of them, or mom or dad struggling. And we still serve those in different ways. So I'm wondering, when you're speaking to a grandmother taking care of a 5-year-old or a 12-year-old or a 15-year-old or whoever, kids from hard places that have just been through some tough stuff. What are some of the things that helped you? Are there like perspectives, interventions? Like, what helped equip you to do that? And is there advice, or, what are some of those nuggets?
I think I had a mother who is she is very kind and compassionate. So those are always, it's two of the things I always wanted to show the kids that I was working with, was kindness and compassion. But community, I think, is the most important thing. So where you find other moms who are in the same place. As a house parent, that was a little harder to find. But when you find your house parent person that you're connected to, that you love, and that you share wisdom with each other and support with each other, because everybody needs a support group. Everybody needs their village around them. And I think that we see that with what the positives that is in Kinship Navigator. We see that with the Safe Family hosts having their circles around them, and the Homes of Hope moms too, needing to build their communities around them. So as a house parent, that's where I found all of my support, and how I grew as a parent was learning from others and leaning on others.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's so important. It's so true. I find that I think that, oh my gosh, I must be messing up so bad because my kid isn't doing this or that. And then if I get with another parent with the kids the same age, they go, oh yeah.
Oh yeah, same experience.
Mine too. I was like, oh, I'm not failing miserably. It's just that I need to keep going and keep being that steady, loving, strong support for them. So yeah, that's so important. And yet we live in a world where we're so isolated sometimes, and
Well, parents are isolated. I think that a lot when you're in your home and you're dealing with hard stuff. You're in your house by yourself. When we were in house parenting, we literally could open a door and yell, and there was somebody within a throwing distance. Called Mr. Day over when sheriffs came to the house, or when I had a kid in a tree who wouldn't come down. And we called for support for all kinds of stuff, and somebody else could just step in for you while you step out. So as a paid professional, I had the support network, so I could say, hey, caseworker, please take them for 45 minutes so we can straighten up the room that they just trashed. And that families don't have that, or a lot of families don't have that. They have to find it. So you've got to find your community.
That's a good point. But the opposite is true, though, as well. So there was this support staff in the Boys and Girls Home system, but it was also an artificial system, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's not really their home, not really their family, and there's all these rules because we all have to kind of do things together, and that's kind of artificial. And so there was kind of tension there, right?
Yeah, when we stopped house parenting, there's two things that it took me a while to stop doing. One was overcooking, because there was just 3 of us, and I was still cooking for like 8. That was a real problem. Nick's like, that's not in the budget anymore. You can't make that much spaghetti. And then the other thing was those rules and the structure that we had in place. Most families don't have such a strict structure. But when you have 8 kids, you have to have laundry schedules, you have to have seating arrangements in the van. And so to slowly let go of those things, because I'd done them for so long.
Yeah.
So that was different to change those
The homes were
perspectives.
run by the Blue Book, but you don't have
Yeah,
a Blue Book
yeah.
at home, right? I
No.
mean, it's just not the same thing. So
Yeah.
every child with a thriving family, supported by a faithful community
Right.
and an engaged church. I always want to start adding that in. So, Liam, let's take a look and remind our folks of this thing we call Vision 30.
Nobody gets to choose their family. If a person is fortunate enough to be born into a healthy family, then life can be much like floating down a smooth, gentle river in the summertime. But an unhealthy family is like a dangerous river, filled with rocks, debris, and fast-moving water. This river swiftly leads to the steep waterfall of adulthood, tragically forming a new river of dysfunction. Even if you aren't born into an unhealthy river, there are many streams that cause a person to get there. But there is only one way to get out, and that is through a meaningful relationship. Across our region, there are many agencies, churches, and families who are devoted to helping children escape from unhealthy rivers. Some feel their role is to wade in and rescue children. They foster, adopt, or provide safe families. Others stand by the river and support the rescuers by providing what they need. Still, others are upstream and stand in the gap to keep children from ending up in the negative situations. At Patrick Henry Family Services, we see ourselves as having an additional role. We are running up and down the shores of the unhealthy river, screaming, "Can't you see the children in the water? You have to do something." Vision 30 is a 10-year initiative. By 2030, we envision a region where all children are safe in their own family, or with caregivers who are supported by a local faith community. So, where do you stand at the river? Are you upstream, keeping families together and strong by standing in the gap? Are you in the river, directly impacting children? Are you on the shore, providing support for the brave folks who have entered the river? Or are you just passing by without noticing? No matter who you are, come down to the river with us. Let us help you find your place. Not only will lives be changed, but you will never be the same.
So you were one of those folks who decided to jump in the river, wade right in there, you and Nick, as house parents. And you at least touched the lives of 107 children were floating down that river in various stages of trauma and brokenness. And you said the whole time, you never stopped to say, we want one of those to be ours. Well, one of those 107 did.
Right.
Tell us your story of adoption.
Number 98
Number 98. Wow.
became ours. So just like every day, we'd get a call from a caseworker that said, "Hey, we have a potential child and family down here. We want you to come and meet them and see what you think, see if they'd be a good fit for you." And I walked through the door and went into a conference room with a swivel chair, just like this one. Sorry, I swivel. And there was a little boy sitting in the swivel chair, turning himself around in a circle. And that's the first time I met him. I met him first, Nick. Nick likes to say he did. And
Well, that's settled. It's forever recorded on video now.
his family was an adopted family. It was a
Yeah.
kinship situation. They had adopted him to keep him and his sibling out of foster care. And it was just difficult. Kids from trauma
wasn't
backgrounds the behaviors are difficult. And we didn't have TBRI at the time to teach and to share with them. So the family placed him in the group home. And I remember it was the week of the award ceremony. And at the award ceremony, some staff came up and was like, "What's his story?" Because he was so little and cute. Where does he come from? "Oh, he should stay with you. He's so attached to you guys." And it was 2 weeks after he had been there that we came to you and said, we're only saying this to you, Mr. Day, but if this little boy ever comes up for adoption, if that's the situation, we want to do it. We want to adopt him because we fell in love with him so immediate.
quickly.
And there was something different, like a connection between us that was different than we had before. And then we didn't say that again. Those words did not come out of our mouth for a year. And Claudia had come on staff, and Claudia met the boys in our house and saw all the kids that we had. And Claudia said, "Hey, have you guys thought about adoption?" And we said, "Well, we did say to Mr. Day that if this situation ever came up." So that's how the ball started rolling.
And I think we helped initiate that with his adoptive family,
Yeah.
right, who weren't really sure that he was ever going to come back.
Yeah.
And we said he can't grow up in a group home, right?
I think everybody who met him and stuff knew that, there was
Yeah.
just something, and nobody wanted him to stay in institutional care forever.
No, because he was young. He had been there for,
Yep. He was 7.
yeah. So
Yeah.
that's just not a place to grow up, right? And I remember that award ceremony, and I remember seeing him.
Yeah. He'd
setting-
go from my lap to Nick's lap,
Yes.
from my lap to Nick's lap.
and he was just like he was letting go of years of trauma and anxiety, and here he'd found a home and people loved him,
Yeah.
and he just, right,
Yeah. It fit from day one.
he did fit from day one.
Yeah. It was God's plan. Can I tell you, too, we figured out later on that when we were in Tennessee working at the group home, we had been thinking about becoming missionaries in Mongolia. And we were going to go with a certain organization, and we were kind of in the area where we were starting deputation. And that started in January of 2008 that we were doing that. And within a few months, our plans changed. There was something that happened that made us say, you know what, we're going to stay in house parenting instead. Mikey was born that January.
Is that right?
And had we gone on a different path, then we would never have gotten him or had him. But it was interesting for me to think back. And it was around, I remember it was a month before Valentine's Day that we started seriously saying, you know what, maybe this is not what we're supposed to do. And we're supposed to get back into house parenting because we love it so much.
Well, but I didn't know that part of the story. So I know you brought some pictures. So introduce everybody to Mikey or
And the pictures,
Mike.
I saw Liam was playing a few of them.
Oh,
I showed them.
they were showing. I wasn't paying attention. I was listening to
I
the story.
glanced, but I didn't want to start crying. So what do you want me to tell you about him?
Tell us what you think is most important
So
about him.
Cute. His smile, look at it. He always is so kind. He's so happy. He's smiling. I remember he was with us for 30 days before we ever saw him get frustrated. It was about a month, and we were shocked when he got frustrated. All the boys stopped and were like, "Are you okay? What's going on?" Because he's just a pretty steady spirit. And all the kids in the house adored and loved him. His teachers at school adored and loved him. You might remember he was on 88.3's website and stuff for getting straight A's, and he wore a suit to school the day that he got his principal's straight A pin. And that picture was posted. So I think he is Patrick Henry's kid here for, all of us at Patrick Henry Family Services that knew him at the time and over these years love him. So he's
grown up a lot.
yeah, and that was even 2 years ago. He's got muscles, and he's a teenager now, 15 and a half. That's him and Janice sharing a birthday party. Together, we threw a surprise party for them at the office. They are a day away. And he used to like to come up here and trick or treat in his costumes and take pictures with all the staff when he was here.
Yes, because I remember because Nick worked here, and so he would come up sometimes and work with him, and he'd open the closet door, and there he was with his little desk, and he was helping.
Yeah, and when we moved into the Vista Park offices, he had a little desk in Vista Park and would stay in there and do his schoolwork. So he's a great kid. We're blessed to have him. So a lot of people say to adoptive parents, oh, they're so lucky to have you, and it's so wonderful that they came into your life. And I feel opposite about that. I mean, he may be blessed to have us and the world that came around him, but we're the ones that are lucky to have him and blessed by God to have him in our life. He's a purpose, so I love him.
I'm curious, Bambi, how has adopting, but also taking care of many kids from tough places, how has it changed you?
Ooh, that's a good question. How has it changed me?
Or maybe what's God taught you through it all?
That I can't do it by myself. I remember nights laying in bed crying about some of the kids' situations that we had, including Mikey's. I remember just being heartbroken for their families not having the skill sets or the support networks or just the opportunity to learn and to practice the things that we were being taught to implement. I remember pulling on campus. I'm not going to cry. So
Okay.
I was in a car. I had just dropped off a boy 2 hours away in a psychiatric hospital that had a psychiatric episode. And I pulled on campus, and Mr. Day was walking back to his house. And I rolled down the window. I was in tears and so upset. And I said to him, we have to do better. Why don't we have a psychiatrist on campus? And why don't? And that's not who we were. That wasn't the provision that we had at the time. We had Hope for Tomorrow counseling, and he was in counseling. But he needed more than that. And I felt ill-equipped. And I am ill-equipped. We're all ill-equipped to give everything to somebody who's in need.
Yeah.
We're just a piece of the puzzle for them. And the community and the church and other resources and our community partners fill the rest of the pieces to that puzzle. So I am not everything to anyone, but God is everything, and I just want to introduce him in a piece. So
Now, she quickly mentioned TBRI, and it relates to the story you just
yeah.
told us. So
Yeah.
remind us what that stands
Yeah,
for.
that stands for trust-based relational intervention.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful philosophy, a wonderful intervention system. I guess I want to say training, and I happen to do that training here. But I love to do it because it's specifically for kids from hard places. More specifically, it's for caregivers of kids from hard places because, I like to say that the parents are the primary interventionists,
Yes.
so, and as a therapist, I can say that. So I might have them for an hour. The parent is the one that has that God's given that authority to. And so TBRI is awesome in that it really, it teaches us how important connecting is and what all that means and attachment and our own ability to connect and how we can help them, a child, to have a secure attachment and then to empower their little bodies and then even to correct in a way that builds connection, that maintains connection. And I've seen, Bambi's learned that and embodies that. And I hear even all the traditions and the things that her and Nick do that she could just tell, she could write a book. They're all building connection. That's beautiful. That's why those kids could come in bow ties. As I was hearing your story, even when you just talked about when you first met Mikey, that my heart got hit, and I was thinking he was so precious. He was so cute, right? And he came with a story. He came with a history, and I believe that if you looked on paper at what Mikey came with, and if you hadn't met him, you'd have gone, "Whew, this is pretty bad." That poor baby, he's gone through a lot.
Poor baby.
And there are so many out there. There's so many out there that have gone through such horrendous things and are right now.
Right now in Lynchburg.
In Lynchburg.
Yeah.
And so if we all stepped in, and when I say we all, everybody may not be called to be an adoptive parent, but many are, or a foster parent, or a safe family, or a friend to a family in need, or the person who says, "Hey, it seems like you're having a hard time. You want to talk? Would you like to come over for dinner? Could I just bring you dinner? Maybe we're playing cards later." So I think about how much I love to give, train people in TBRI, for instance. A lot of times that's people in the work, the professionals, social workers, and probably not enough of the time, but a lot of the time it's people that giving the care. Man, who I'd love to train in that? Everybody else. And I say that, whether it's TBRI or something else, I think about how hard it is for a lot of adoptive parents. They can't necessarily put their kids here or there because people may not understand. You know, there are so many that might say all that kid needs is a good. Actually,
good
no.
hug.
No.
Yeah.
There you go. That's
they
good.
just need a hug.
Because kids
No,
are
they're safe.
messy, and so I just and I want to, I guess I want to call the church up to it to say there's so much to understand so that we can love on our next door neighbor, person across the street, the adoptive parent and or kinship parent and or struggling parents, period, because we all have our stuff. None of us are doing it perfectly. So yeah.
Wow. That's a good call to action right there. She promised not to cry, but you didn't promise.
Yeah, I
and
did.
then you making me cry. Doggone, both of you. So as we wrap up, just first of all, thank you on behalf of those 107 children and all those that are yet to be connected to you.
Can I tell you something?
Yes.
You said to me one time at a staff meeting, it was right after Christmas. Maybe it was our Christmas staff meeting. And you had seen all my craziness on Facebook that I was doing in the house with the kids. And you gave me my biggest compliment I've ever had. And you said, and it's because it came from you, but you said to me, have you seen Bambi's Elf on the Shelf? And you turned and looked at me and said, Bambi, your home is the kind of home I would have wanted to grow up in and had Christmas with you. And when I heard that come from you especially, I thought that's exactly the space that I want to create. Is I want when the kid walks in the door and the kid that we have to know, like, this is your home and you're safe here and you're special and you're loved.
Special.
And I think every kid deserves to hear that and feel that. And if the parent to provide that space for a kid. So there is hope out there. You just have to look and you have to find it. And the church needs to step out.
Amen. I'm sorry we're running out of time, but I'm going to make the two of you promise me let's have her work on that book about those meaningful connections. Right? She does that so well.
Deal.
All right.
right.
Good
I
job.
love
We heard
it.
it, everybody, right here. So we're going to expect maybe a year from now release of a book from Bambi Durham. I know that you were touched by that. I was for sure, and I hope that you'll hear the call from both of these young ladies. If we all just did something, right, to connect and make the difference for a kid, it can really change a life. Thanks for joining us today. We'll see you next week on Community Connection.
Homes of Hope is an amazing program. We're there to be really a support for women who are ready for some kind of change.
We're helping teach them how to obtain a job or fill out applications or to parent their kids in supportive, emotional ways.
I try to just meet them where they are. I ask them about their story, and I let them just tell me.
The trauma and the experiences they have actually become their strength and sometimes guides them on to ways that they can impact others who've been in similar situations.
They have survived and they've shown up asking for help, and that is not easy to do.
They're used to feeling like they are nothing more than a certain stereotype.
The saying that it takes a village is true for a nuclear family, so why wouldn't it be true for a single mom who's doing it by herself?
This is a place of healing, this home.
You have ladies and you have these children and they're all mixing together. It's such a beautiful sight to see.
Sometimes people just need help, and there's not always somebody there to do that. I love that Patrick Henry is there. We are here.
How are you called to care? Tell me how, and we'll find a place for you.